Every thought you have, every memory you recall, and every movement you make happens because of one tiny connection. A connection so small it can't be seen with the naked eye, yet powerful enough to control the entire human experience. This connection is called a synapse. Welcome to BioScholar, where we break down the science of life into clear, structured explanations. In today's episode, we'll explore the world of synapses, what they are, how they work, and why they are the foundation of learning, memory, and even human behavior. The word synapse comes from the Greek meaning to clasp or join. Think of it like a junction or a crossroads where communication happens. Now, what exactly is a synapse? A synapse is the meeting point between two neurons. It's the place where one neuron passes information to another. But here's something interesting. Neurons are not actually touching. Instead, there is a very tiny space between them, and this space is called the synaptic gap or synaptic cleft. On one side of this gap, we have the axon terminal of the presynaptic neuron, and on the other side, we have a dendrite of the postsynaptic neuron. Whenever a nerve signal, what we call an action potential, travels along the axon and reaches the axon terminal, it needs to cross this synaptic cleft to deliver its message to the next neuron. So, if neurons form the structure of the nervous system, synapses are the tiny communication links that actually turn that structure into a functioning system. In simple words, a synapse is the region where two neurons come close enough that they can communicate. Let's talk about the size of a synapse. Synapses are extremely small, so small that they're about 1,000 times thinner than a sheet of paper. And yet, despite being so tiny, they perform highly complex processes to transmit signals between neurons. Now, what about the number of synapses? The human brain contains about 100 billion neurons. Each of these neurons forms between 1,000 to 10,000 synapses. If you do the math, that adds up to somewhere between 100 trillion to 1,000 trillion synapses in the brain. And some estimates go even higher, possibly up to 2 quadrillion synapses. So, most neurons in your brain have thousands of synapses, and together they form incredibly dense and powerful networks. Now that we understand what synapses are, let's look at their types. Broadly, synapses can be divided into two categories: chemical synapses and electrical synapses. Let's first discuss chemical synapse. Chemical synapses are more common than electrical synapses, but they're also a little slower. Unlike direct electrical flow, these synapses use neurotransmitters, chemical messengers, to transfer information across a microscopic gap known as the synaptic cleft. The biggest advantage of chemical synapses is flexibility and control. They convert an electrical signal into a chemical one, and then back into an electrical signal. This extra step allows the nervous system to amplify, inhibit, or fine-tune messages in very precise ways. A chemical synapse is made of three main parts. First part is presynaptic neuron, the sending cell. Its axon terminal contains synaptic vesicles filled with neurotransmitters, along with voltage-gated calcium channels that help trigger release. Next is synaptic cleft. A tiny gap, less than 5/millionths of a centimeter wide, separating the two neurons. Last one is postsynaptic neuron. The receiving cell. Its dendrites or cell body are studded with specialized receptors that detect and respond to neurotransmitters. Together, these structures ensure that signals don't just randomly spread, they're directed and targeted. Here's how a chemical synapse actually works. An action potential travels down the presynaptic neuron and reaches the axon terminal. This electrical change opens voltage-gated calcium channels, allowing calcium ions to rush in. The calcium triggers synaptic vesicles to fuse with the presynaptic membrane. Neurotransmitters are released into the synaptic cleft by exocytosis. They diffuse across the gap and bind to receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. Binding opens ion channels, converting the chemical signal back into an electrical one in the postsynaptic neuron. Finally, the signal's intensity is shaped by whether the neurotransmitter is excitatory, pushing the neuron toward firing, or inhibitory, holding it back. This entire process happens in just a few milliseconds. One of the best-known chemical synapses is the neuromuscular junction, where a motor neuron communicates with a muscle cell. Here, the neurotransmitter acetylcholine is released into the synaptic cleft, binds to receptors on the muscle fiber, and triggers muscle contraction. Without this process, even simple movements like blinking or walking would be impossible. Chemical synapses are essential for learning, memory, mood, and overall brain function. They allow the brain to form complex circuits. They help regulate everything from sleep and appetite to emotion, attention, and motivation. So, chemical synapses are not just switches, they are dynamic processes that shape how we think, feel, and act. Now that we've explored chemical synapses in detail, let's look at the second type, the electrical synapse. Unlike chemical synapses, which rely on neurotransmitters, electrical synapses work through direct electrical connections between neurons. These connections are formed by gap junctions, tiny channels that allow ions to flow freely from one cell to the next. The big advantage here is speed. Electrical synapses transmit signals almost instantaneously, making them much faster than chemical ones. However, they are also less flexible. They can't amplify or fine-tune signals the way chemical synapses can. An example in the human body is found in the retina of the eye, where electrical synapses help synchronize the activity of certain neurons for rapid visual processing. So, in short, chemical synapses give us precision and control, while electrical synapses give us speed and synchronization. Both are essential, and together they make the nervous system remarkably efficient. Synapses are not just relay points. They function like tiny computers, adapting and changing with use. This adaptability forms the foundation of learning and memory. They also play key roles in psychiatric disorders, drug effects, and addictions. By linking neurons, they build circuits that control everything from simple movements to complex thinking. In short, synapses give the nervous system its remarkable flexibility and power. So that's it for today's episode on synapses. I hope you learned something new and useful. Don't forget to subscribe to BioScholar for more informative and engaging videos. And if you'd like to dive deeper into the structure of a neuron, just click on the video right here. I'll see you there.